Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're doing another build and review, this time of the Porsche 963 racing car. So one of my awesome viewers likes to be called Little Pebble warned me about all of the stickers on this. So yeah, that's gonna be fun, but hey, whatever it is. By the way, everyone, I want you guys to know I hope you are having a wonderful turkey day today, as it will be Thanksgiving when this video comes out. So I hope you all are having an awesome, wonderful dinner. I hope everyone's nice and safe with their families and enjoying themselves. Wow, that's the first time I've seen this before. And oh boy, yeah, that's a lot of stickers. Okay then. I was warned. Of course, we have our little Porsche driver. Aw, Noah. No opposite face for him, I'm afraid. Dump all these out real quick. Come on. Go. So, I'm you're sniffing my. I want to change it to a bit. So while I'm doing this, I actually wanted to kind of talk to you guys a little bit, because I know that when I'm doing this, I get a long point of silence for a while. There's our little racer man. His helmet. But I figured I'd kind of regale you with the tales of OG Mama Isaac. Now, when I say OG Mom, it's because my actual biological mother died of cancer when I was 16 years old. So I have felt the sting of good old cancer a time or two before. But I figured it would be a good time while we're just sitting here building some Legos to kind of immortalize her a little bit in video form and kind of chat about the kind of person she was. In fact, she was the one that got me started into learning about business. And OG Mama Isaac, by the way, was a person who had her own degree in business. She had a degree in business and finance, by the way, / accounting. So she actually had quite a number of her old textbooks that she still held onto in the house. And she made it a point to kind of teach me essentially everything that she knew. Now, just to give a point of reference of just how smart this person was, how smart my biological mom was. My dad was not around the house very much. He is a professional driver. He drives an 18-wheeler. For those of you not familiar, an 18-wheeler is like the big rigs, the big trucks. The big things with the 53-foot long trailer that deliver your goods to Walmart and such. So, instead of waiting for him when she needed to do some kind of project or she needed something done, would figure out how to do it herself. For example, my parents used to own 40 acres of land in Wyoming. The way that our home was built was we actually had a trailer that was actually built on top of a concrete slab that was built into the hillside of the property. Now, what my mom did is she decided to learn how to do electrics, plumbing, and drywall, as well as architecture. So she went and she found all the books she could get her hands on, and she studied all of those things. And part of the why I know this is I actually had to help her do all of it alongside with my sister. So, yes, Isaac has an older sibling. And the older sibling is a big, tall lady. When I say big, tall, I mean as in she's like almost 7 feet tall. Amazon type woman. Used to use me as a headdress a lot of the time growing up. Anyway, back to our mother. That actually is kind of interesting that both my sister and I had to be C-sections because we were both actually too big to be born naturally as babies. We were ginormous. So for our own mother's safety, we had to be C-section. Adventure, the missing pieces again. Didn't think we'd have that problem so early, but hey, it happens. But anyway, I'll go on nothing for faces here. But just to establish this person, my mother drywalled, plumbed, and practically built the entire basement of our home with just my help, my sister's help, and I think one other person. That was like either my sister's boyfriend or some mess like that. And my dad didn't quite trust that. He was like, there's no way this could be possible for somebody to just randomly do all this and do it correctly. So he called a professional, right? The professional comes back and asks my dad if my mother would like a job. Because apparently OG Mama Isaac did everything better than his professional workers do. So I guess, moral of the story, don't doubt OG Mama Isaac. I guess for sake, we'll just call her Mama M, right? So, because her first name, of course, started with M. But basically, back to the story. Yeah, you don't mess with Mama M. by the way, she was doing all of this while I was 5 years old and had been diagnosed with cancer. Now, cancer would essentially try and claim my mother's life for 11 years. She fought that for 11 years during the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. Managed to actually force it into remission for actually almost 10 to 12 of those years. I'm sorry, 9 to 10 of those years. Because I forgot you. Sorry, my mind's kind of in between this and talking about Mama M. But, to say that my mother was the kind of person you didn't mess with is an understatement. Like, she wasn't a mean person, but if you gave her a reason to be mean, that was game over. For example, back when I was part of the Jehovah's Witnesses, my mother was helping a woman that she was studying with, doing Bible study with, to get separated from the man that had basically brought her over to the States. She wasn't married to him, but because they essentially had lived together for so long, and the young woman was not particularly versed in American law. To help her find a lawyer and other things. Now, the lawyer that was working with our friend, with her Bible student, essentially, loved my mom because he practically didn't have to do anything. He straight up did all the research, found all the relevant laws, did all the paperwork, basically figured out what paperwork needed to be filed, all that stuff. And for all intents and purposes, basically just handed everything over to the lawyer. He was so good at this, the other person's lawyer had to literally run to the bar, aka, for those not familiar with American legal system, which the bar is the legal apparatus that licenses and everything when it comes to lawyers, to try and get them to have them send a cease and desist injunction on Mama M because she was trouncing his butt in law. That is correct. This bombastic person, who, for all intents and purposes, was supposed to be sick and dying to some extent, had the skill to do that. By the way, among her other skills were crocheting, knitting, embroidering, sewing, glasswork. My mom, for the most part, literally, yeah, my biological mother, for the most part, actually built and made a number of clothing for my sister and myself. And it was actually good quality clothing. In fact, one year when my sister went to a convention, our mother actually made for her a full-on pirate costume. It was actually really done. Nicely done. Oh. Now, it also should be noted that despite the fact that she had been trying to fight cancer for 11 years, this woman, if you'd seen her and not known about her diagnosis, you would not have known at all. She would walk directly into doctor's appointments during her checkups and chemos and stuff. And the nurses and the doctors would sit there and look at her and go, "You should be in a wheelchair." The pain medically should have been so bad that she should have been wheelchair bound. Mom just walked in like she just didn't give a damn. Like it was just another ordinary checkup. Wasn't getting radiology, wasn't doing all that. Just going in for a regular checkup, basically. It was funny watching some of the nurses just looking over at the desk like, what the hell? That was just how off of a person she was. Didn't care. I mean, this is a reference. Like, she was a lifetime member of the Handyman. And I don't mean just like, oh, eventually. No. She had the literal leather jacket. The Leatherman Handyman jacket. Now, I'm not going to pretend, of course, that she didn't have some faults. Like, she did get us mixed up from time to time with some MLMs, and so if you don't know what that is, it's referred to as a multi-marketing level marketing. And basically what it is it's a company that pretends to be a company. Some of the more commonly known ones are things like Mary Kay and stuff like that. She wasn't like bombastically perfect, but she didn't really need to be bombastically perfect. And matter of fact, like I said, she straight up ran her own business right out of her house. She did bookkeeping for a little bit, then she did... Because like I said, she had a full-on degree in business, finance, and all that mess. In fact, she used to off and on work for H&R Block. So she would do people's taxes and stuff like that. Mainly to kind of, try and help Dad out so he wouldn't have to work so hard, be on the road so much. But, she stayed pretty strong throughout all 11 years that she fought the disease. She was a stubborn woman. Managed to fight it back for a good long time, keep it fought back. But eventually, unfortunately, after 11 long years, well, kind of came back with a vengeance. Finally took over pretty much most of her spine. Had to watch essentially a highly intelligent, skilled woman turn into practically a vegetable. Sorry if I'm bumming everybody out. But I think it's important a little bit to talk about someone who is actually what they call a strong, independent woman. She had many skills. She worked her way not only to being a good person, but also fighting to try and make things better for her family. Used her skills and abilities to provide and help take care of her kids. Make amazing stuff. But, said she used to make us clothes. She used to make us costumes, anything we wanted. Really. I had a night costume once, I had a kilt. And she made every endeavor to make sure that I learned pretty much everything I could about math, science, history. Her point, if anything else, was to make sure that her children weren't pushovers as well. trying to teach us to be independent, think for ourselves. To be studious and make a point of doing research. Granted, I mean, well, she did end up joining the Jehovah's Witness. I think Jehovah's Witnesses when I was about 3 years old. I think that's mainly because even growing up when she was a kid, she had a strong desire to serve the deity that she believed to be God. So, she at first wanted to be a nun, strangely enough, but life events would happen where a pretty major scandal would come out about nuns in the Catholic Church at some point, which caused her to abandon that idea and spent most of her time trying to find a belief system, a religious church that most matched what she was reading in the Bible as far as she could tell. So, didn't care for Baptist churches because, well, she didn't like how the preacher was slamming and causing babies to cry. Among other things. But, to be fair, he joined them before all of the kind of information was coming out that we now have about the Watchtower and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure if she was actually familiar with it now, she would never have joined that organization. Among all of her feats, I mean, you gotta definitely give her a lot of credit to be able to raise 2 children 7 years apart from each other while fighting a serious cancer disease that literally basically ate at your very bones, your very body. And yet still be able to pull all the stuff she did. Honestly, I mean, even living with her, I mean, dude, there were times that I guess, honestly, I kind of forgot that she had cancer. It seemed like she was just fine. There was nothing wrong. Part of that really hit me hard when it finally ended. Well, hi, Moonpie. Aww. Moonpie coming over when Dad's talking about something. Not your OG grandma? Yeah. Oh, hi. Meow. Meow. Oh. Oh, come on. Ups. Want ups? No. Silly kitty. Man. Buddy. My mom really did have to kind of almost raise us alone. Not because my dad had left us or anything like that, but because, I mean, he was working. He was an over-the-road trucker. When you're driving semi-trucks over the road, you're not home a lot. You kind of give up a lot of your life, and especially your family life. It's actually really rough on your kids, your spouse. I don't hate my dad at all for it. In fact, honestly, I actually got to go ride with him more than a few times. It's funny because actually my parents on both ends basically essentially made it a point for me to be able to know how to drive and operate certain stuff. Like I was riding lawnmowers, and my dad tried to get me on a dirt bike. That didn't do too well. What had happened was I was terrified of the dang thing. You know, my dad being former military man is like, don't worry about it, son. Just work through the fear. You'll be okay. You know, at first. It's just your typical military thing is, you know, fears in your mind. It's kind of what they teach them to some extent. Problem is, when you're like 8 years old, you're like, Dad? No, that's what you... I know how they trained you, but I'm not quite at that level, old man. He tried to calm me down enough, and he's like, okay, son, you know, don't throttle it all the way, just give it a little bit of gas. Of course, my scared little butt, the first thing I do is I give the dirt bike full throttle. And I go flying. Now, thankfully, I was lucky because I actually hit a pair of tires in front of a swing set my dad had made. For me. So, that was the good news. Because if I hadn't, I probably would have taken off my own head. Because I was heading right through for a very metal sink that was attached to a barn that my mom had actually built that was in front of her like chicken coop and actual food garden. That could have very well ended badly. I didn't get hurt too bad, honestly, though. I ended up hitting the tires. I went flying, had my helmet on. You know, obviously my parents are smart enough to go, let's give him a helmet and try to make sure he's wearing some pants, not shorts. And I went flying. Would have probably been okay if the bike hadn't, you know, slightly landed on me. Now, I wasn't actually severely injured. I got some scratches. That was about it. Mom and Dad just patched me up, put some Band-Aid, gave some Rebel alcohol on it, stung like a bastard. And that was good. After a while of that, my dad decided, okay, maybe you're not ready for dirt bikes. So instead, he actually goes and he finds a motorized tricycle. Now, for those of you not aware, Honda used to make these motorized tricycles where, I forget how many cc's it was, but it was low enough you didn't actually need a driver's license, so it's like for kids. And my dad went ahead and got me that instead. Now, they got me on it. I was a little scared of it first. And they went ahead and said, okay. I just started putting around on it, right? So my parents said, okay, you know, he's gonna be good. He's not gonna... Well, we should be okay to just leave him here for now. He's not gonna go and be crazy with it. He's gonna be okay. Well, after a while of putting around on it, I finally started actually getting comfortable with it. And me, even back then, I actually liked racing and stuff. And since I'd basically been taught how to drive like a clutch vehicle, like manual vehicles, since at that age, at that point. Because I did, actually before that, now that I remember it, I actually did have a heavier, just regular low cc motorcycle I loved as well. I might have actually had both of them at some point. So we ended up getting rid of my kid motorcycle and somewhere down the road. Anywho, not part of that conversation. Basically, it was this motorized trike. You had to pull a little rope on it to get it to go. Real fun. So, my parents leave me out in the driveway. 40 acres, they have... Basically, the way our driveway is set up, there's a circle in front of the house, and then a lane that goes out of the house, out of that circle, outside of the property to the main road we were on. Well, any of you boy racers out there probably already have a guess at what happened next when I finally got really comfortable with the motorized trike. For those of you not capable of, who don't have a need for speed, let me explain. My parents left me outside thinking that worst case scenario, I just put around on it. I've been pretty much scared for the most part of a lot of the motorized things they tried to put me on. So they go in, they soak for a little bit, and they come back outside. Here is the image they come back outside to. They come back outside, instead of putting around like I was before, I am driving the laps in the circular part of our driveway like I am racing in the Daytona 500. I am pushing this little motorized trike as far and as fast as it will go. And that was just my favorite thing to do for as long as I had that thing. Anytime I got the chance, that was what I was doing. That little motorized trike, awesome lap time. And I seriously did. I literally sit there and pretend like I was just racing a whole bunch of other kids on motorized trikes, and we were just having a good time. Now, my parents, of course, never actually took me to the tracks or anything. Aside from, race car tracks where we went and watched stuff. Like, I actually got to go watch a couple of those. We actually got some prizes from them once in a while. Because the racetracks we had, they had raffle prizes every now and again. But that gave him a little bit of a start. The kid they've left just like, he'll put around a little bit. He's probably just a little bit scared of it. No need to worry. He should be fine. 15 minutes later, meow, meow. But, yeah, I really did love that old thing. Like, it was an old Honda model, too. Like, they didn't even make them anymore at that point. Because I think it was like a 1970, 1980 something. I remember it was kind of old, even by my standards even by the standards back then. It was not something that was brand new, and it was readily available to anybody. Like, they actually got it, I believe, from a used motorcycle shop that used to be up there in the Wyoming, Cheyenne, Burns area kind of place. They had all the cool little motorcycles. My dad always swapped out bikes every now and again. It's actually kind of the thing with my dad is every now and again I expect to see some kind of new vehicle that he's acquired at some point. My dad is definitely a car guy. Like, he's definitely collected more than a few vehicles over the years. He's never really kept, like, the same car for any real amount of time, though. I think one of my favorites that we had was a early 2000s Mustang. I loved those. Because I liked how the design was closer to, like, the OG Mustang design. I believe they call that, actually, that variant, the Schwarzenegger variant. For those cars, too. Of course, you know, named after good old Arnold. I'm confused. Oh, I see what happened here. No, get back in there. I was supposed to leave a little bit of the white brick left. You, my little friend, are actually supposed to go all the way up here. That makes sense. And that actually is where my love of the Ford Mustang comes from. I believe we had a 2001 Ford Mustang convertible. Now, the funny thing about truck driving, and I'll say this, is truck driving actually is a fairly lucrative job. Like, you can actually make a good bit of money doing it. The only problem, like I said before, is that, unfortunately, it's a kind of job where you're not home very often. You don't really get a lot of time off. So that's one of the major breaks to it. Because my dad's been trying to get me to go into trucking too. Because I'd be about the 4th or 5th gen doing it at that point. But one of the main things of why I don't do it is, well, literally because you don't get time to yourself. You don't get time to have friends or really have time off. You basically, the trade-off being pretty much the thing where you get lots of money, but you have to live in a box for months at a time, and I mean months at a time, especially if you're driving over the road. The time off is not something you get a lot of, which is why when truckers do stop, they have like a ton of money, because literally you don't get time to spend it. You just earn it and earn it and earn it and earn it, and then at the end of the day, you just have nowhere to actually spend the money. Matter of fact, I believe my dad actually mentioned one time that we were over the road for a good long time. And eventually I just had it up to here with it, basically, and I basically said, hey, look, Dad, I want my day off. You said we were going to get a day off. Where's my day off? So luckily, I mean, we basically got to stop for a second. I don't remember if we went and watched movies or we went watching races or whatever. But, you know, I eventually got my day off. Now, if you're wondering, like, you know, how is it a young kid can be, you know, out and about and not going to school at the time? Well, the reason for that one, actually, was, surprisingly enough, my mom actually took me out of public school because being ADHD, especially during, like, the early 90s and 2000s, the way the American education system treated you was they basically just put you on drugs. They didn't try to learn anything about it. They didn't try to do anything else. They just put you on drugs. My mom was not a fan of that. Who knew? An incredibly smart woman who also has ADHD and all that stuff is kind of going, no, we're not gonna drug my kid up and turn him into a zombie because the education system doesn't know how to deal with him. So she actually took me home and homeschooled me. Which is, again, why I actually ended up learning a lot of the same stuff about finance and business and stuff like that. Because I was around her all the time. Whether it was doing schoolwork or whatever, while she was doing her work, pretty much. So she pretty much passed on everything she kind of knew to me. I believe she also tried to teach a little bit to my sister too, so she probably knows a good bit herself. Definitely enough to where my sister actually was actually able to be a tutor for the local school that she actually lives at. It was one of those actual rare occasions, like, where I was homeschooled not because my mom was a religious nut or anything like that. I was homeschooled because my mom was not going to have the state basically just fill me full of drugs because the teacher couldn't figure out how to actually control me enough to actually get me to do the schoolwork. Good moms. Okay. Of course, it was also back before things like autism were actually even really discussed or talked about, too. And I wouldn't actually get diagnosed with autism, generally speaking, until not long after we moved here to Florida. Now, I am actually very high functioning on that level, so I genuinely can kind of still understand a little bit about, like, human nature's kind of thing. Now, granted, part of me does wonder every now and again if that diagnosis was more because of how I was raised in the Jehovah's Witness cult. Because when you're talking about cults and cult isolationist cults like the Jehovah's Witnesses, because of the way that their teachings kind of operate, can actually make kids be very isolated, very almost alien. I would almost say like someone who would essentially be considered to be exhibiting autistic traits. Because you are talking about an organization that basically likes to essentially teach children to be isolationist toward their cohort, basically other kids. Because the way the Jehovah's Witnesses pretty much teach everybody is that the rest of the world hates you because you know the truth of God and blah blah blah. And basically, this idea that you're special because you know the truth, quote unquote. I think Darth Magog, which is a YouTuber here on YouTube who's also an ex-Jehovah's Witness, he even has a buddy of his on his channel that comes on who is actually a child-rearing expert. Like, he actually has worked with kids, he's familiar with the field, so on and so forth. And he's even pointed out that basically, essentially, by teaching kids that, it doesn't really teach them to be reflective of their own behavior, their own action. It doesn't teach them to really reflect and wonder if, hey, what if my own personal actions are actually the thing causing me to be isolated from the other kids? There's another good reason why cults can actually be, kind of detrimental to kids growing up and their ability to actually, grow up. Now, of course, my mother at the time didn't know the Witnesses were a cult. Because unlike the 21st century, back in the early 90s and, early 2000s, when the internet was first kind of getting itself made and not a lot of people really knew a whole lot about it, you didn't really have a whole lot of resources out there telling people about the Jehovah's Witnesses and showing, hey, yeah, this is actually sort of a kind of strange little death cult that basically keeps trying to say that they have the truth about God, and they're trying and indoctrinate your kids in schools and stuff like that, whether you want them to or not. The information on the Watchtower organization outside of their own groups and own official intel, wasn't exactly out there yet, quite like it is now. Which is, kind of why I give my mom a little bit of a pass on that, because, quite literally, how would she know? It's actually why she chose not to be a Mormon. She actually got a hold of the information about them beforehand. So, I would like to think that if my mother did have the info on the Witnesses like she had the Mormons, she probably very likely would not have joined. She would have kind of recognized them for what they were, a doomsday cult. Because the Jehovah's Witnesses have actually been trying to predict the end of the world several times. I believe they've made over 4 different doomsday predictions in the span of like 100 years. Four and 0 is not a great track record of prediction there. Just saying. And I do say that because, you know, I know my mother was quite the smart person. Just from the general things that she did. I mean, you'd have to be smart to be able to make a lawyer basically cry for mommy because he's being out-lawyered by a door-knocking lady who is riddled with cancer, okay? Like, at that point, that's kind of a... well, then... You know, of course, now, I will say, you know, I don't condone breaking any laws, stuff like that. But I'm not gonna lie and say I don't find that hilarious. Poor daddy, she's beating me. But yeah, like I said, she used to work in H&R Block every now and again, do everybody's books. It's funny, is when she died, and it became my dad's responsibility to do the taxes, he couldn't make heads or tails of what she was doing. Like, what? Like, good luck, Dad! Poor Dad. Because she was able to get all kinds of money back from the tax man. She was able to, all of it legal, mind you, too. Like, this was somebody that basically could out IRS the IRS. How you do that, I do not know. I learned the business side of things, not the, here son, this is how you make the tax man cry. Yeah, unfortunately, she took her tax wizardry with her when she died. I don't know if that's just a taxation, a bookkeeper's code or something, or is like you could never tell anyone what you know about the tax system, or was it just something she died before it became relevant for me to learn. And there we go. One Porsche racing car. Nice. Not a fan overall of Porsches too much, but honestly, I don't mind this one. Don't get me wrong, Porsche has a long racing history. It makes really good cars. I just don't like the aesthetics of them. Not only that, but in racing games, a lot of people drive the Porsches. I mean, a lot. If you've ever played Need for Speed Hate or Need for Speed Heat, which is a good game, everyone wants to play the 911 Porsche RSR, okay? Everyone, because it's just the meta car, okay? I think that's kind of boring. I find that really, really boring. Is the Porsche one of the fastest cars in the game? Yeah. Is it going to be something that I'm going to choose 9 times out of 10? Not if I want to have some fun. But overall, it rolls really nice. I mean, the sticker, hell, I could have done without, but even then, I mean, it looks pretty neat. The bottom side is actually nice and clean. Nothing super duper over there. Our little race car driver sits nice and snug in his seat. I mean, it rolls really good. And as far as the car goes, I mean, it's a really good looking car. I like how they do some of the bricks here, especially the clear for the headlights and the red clear for the taillights. Overall, a really good design, and I'm definitely enjoyed building it. I hope you enjoyed the stories that I told as I was building it, and I'll see you next time.